no plan to test the fire alarm system during this meeting. If the alarm sounds, please exit the building quickly and safely. Do not use the lifts. Please leave the building by the main route. This will be the route that we've entered by. If the main route is unavailable, we can leave by the back door there. Once outside the building, please make your way to the old marketplace at the front of the town hall. This is the emergency assembly point. Do not re-enter the building until the committee clerk has given authorisation. In the event of a security incident, we should remain inside the secure area of the town hall unless unsafe or unless instructed to evacuate. If instructed to evacuate, we will be advised to disperse and move at least 400 metres away from the building or proceed to another specified VDC premises nearby. Can I draw your attention to the notice in this room regarding the use of social media? The council permits audio and or visual recording of photography at council meetings. Proceedings of this meeting may also be reported via social media. If a member of the public or press wishes to do so, could you indicate now? So that's if you want to record. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Members of the public who may be speaking at the meeting would need to give their consent to be filmed. So, if you are speaking at the meeting, do you give your consent to be filmed?
Yes, okay. Yeah.
Yes? Okay, thank you. Okay, so if we move to item 1 of the agenda, where I suspend the meeting for 15 minutes to allow questions from members of the public. Are there any questions from any members of the public? So we've got 2 members of the public. If you don't mind, Councillor Sanders, if I ask the lady at the back, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Would you like to come forward so that we can hear you? I don't think we've got a spare microphone, have we? Ah, there's one there. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name's John O'Brien, I'm a member of the Elton Parish Council, and we came to the last full council meeting on the 4th of December 2025. As part of that meeting, we were told that enforcement action against the unauthorised site on Brough Lane was ongoing. It was like they were doing their due diligence and it had gone to legal, and we've heard anything else. Can we have an update on what's happening, please? And maybe a timescale for what now happens and how long we're looking at before something takes place, because it doesn't appear that anything is taking place at the moment.
I understand your concern, and I know that these things take a long time. I know that Councillor Adams wants to respond, and I think that Mr Taylor might also have an update for you. Councillor Adams.
Yes, I'm not the portfolio for this, but I am the district councillor, and had a meeting with our new enforcement officer today. I established that enforcement notice is being compiled. I'm currently not happy at the time that the enforcement has to be finalised, i.e. that if it were served, that the current residents there would be forced to leave, subject to an appeal. So that is going through our legal department for ratification, that it sticks. There's no point in serving an enforcement notice that it doesn't seem to be legal. That's my update. Do you have a supplementary question?
Well, Councillor Adams, if Mr Taylor could speak as well.
I've nothing further to add. Further detail from what Councillor Adams has just explained there, other than to say that it is actively being progressed.
Sorry, could you get a mic on that, please? Can't hear it. Thank you.
Yeah, just to repeat, I was just saying I didn't have anything further in terms of detail to add to what Councillor Adams has just fed through, other than just to reiterate that it is an ongoing enforcement proceedings that are taking place.
Thank you. Would you like to ask another question?
Is there any sort of timescale for enforcement action? You know, is there a... Okay. quick sheet of how it goes and how long it takes. Because obviously it's taken a lot of time already.
Mr Taylor.
What we could do is, if we take your details, I think that would be best followed up after the meeting, and we can provide just an overview of likely timescales and process. So we can take details.
Thank you.
If you, well, I don't know if you want to wait for the whole meeting, you are welcome to do so, but I think Mrs Cray is giving you some paper and a pen. If you want to leave your details, and you're welcome to stay, but if you prefer not to, I would understand. Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councillor Sanders.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I don't think I need a microphone. I think I'm loud enough. I have two questions, if I may. Could the portfolio holder please give an update on the current position and collection of SIL and 106 monies, please? Could you just caveat that by saying, Chair, that I know there's quite a lot of information contained in that question, and I'm quite happy to receive a written reply further down the line.
Thank you. Councillor Scofflaw.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Sanders, for your question. The collection of 106 and still money, like you say, takes place on an ongoing basis and is linked to the delivery of new development. As you say, the amount of information that's needed, I'll ask officers to produce an up-to-date position for you. I presume you've got another question.
I have, if I may. So, having said that, would it be possible to give an update on current infrastructure projects? And are there any that are approaching the same position that happened with the school provision in my ward?
Current infrastructure projects will be required only once strategic development sites are underway. The timing and the release of Section 106 contributions to deliver this infrastructure will be set within the legal agreements attached to each relevant planning application. These agreements are not yet in place. There are current no known issues relating to the provision of strategic infrastructure of which the County Council is the legal authority. An update on infrastructure projects for the current financial year will be presented to Cabinet later this year through the infrastructure funding statement. Chair, I'd just like to say I would like to thank Councillor Sanders for his question to Cabinet this evening, and ask if he can relay my thanks to the members of the Planning Committee from all sides for the significant time, care and due diligence they devote to the work through what are often very complex and challenging cases. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Are there any more? Yes, would you like to come forward? There's a microphone here you can use.
Thank you, and thank you for the update we've just had regarding what may happen next with regards to Elsley. Can I just bring attention on the meeting agenda today, where the outstanding items agenda on section 5, within there are the first one, number 63A, from the 17th of October 2023, Planning Enforcement Strategy Update. Last time I looked, it's 2026. How on earth can things stay on an agenda for 3 years? You know, I mean, that is, let's be honest, any other industry or business cannot operate that slowly. And we're here in good faith, trying to get good feedback from you with regards to what enforcement action we may get. But you even yourselves admitted in this agenda that you don't even have a planning enforcement strategy, and yet we've been encouraged to come and talk to you. And then you see this on the agenda, it's a bit of a kick in the teeth, to be honest. We do, and we have a good relationship with Councillor Charles Adams, and he does come to parish and he tells us that we are hoping to see improvements in enforcement, in terms of recruitment, skills, experience, and this, that, and the other. But it is only reasonable for us to say that is fine, but there's no deterrent if you don't have these people or policies in place. And if something's outstanding for 3 years, and I was a developer, I'd be thinking I could get away with absolutely anything in Bassetlaw right now. If we have the police force who decide for tomorrow that it's not going to be interested in enforcing the law, it would be absolute chaos. right? You can't have policies or procedures if you don't have enforcement, otherwise it's not worth the paper it's written on. So somebody in this authority must be responsible for this department. And I know there's been different heads of planning, and we seem to have them on recycle. I was thinking of applying myself just for a laugh, because it seems like anyone can have a go, right? But the question I'm asking is, who's responsible for this authority to put the right people and procedures in play, and why aren't themselves and their roles being asked questions if we in a council don't have an enforcement procedure for nearly 3 years? That is just not good enough, and somebody needs to accept that. Thank you.
Okay, we do have an enforcement procedure, but I do accept your point. Mr. Taylor, can you respond, please?
Yeah, so I'm Director of Regeneration Neighbourhoods, so planning development and enforcement sits within my remit. As you've articulated, there has been a number of changes of staffing that have taken place, and they do have consequences in terms of our ability to turn things around at the speed we would like to. The planning enforcement strategy update, so the date of 2023 was when actually there was a report taken at that point to Cabinet around planning and planning enforcement work. So the action that then followed from that is to provide a further update. So what that isn't saying, it's not saying we don't have a strategy, it's not saying we're not doing any planning enforcement activity, because that has been happening. What needs to be done next, and it is on the forward plan for the council later on this year to bring that report through, is actually then to demonstrate and provide Cabinet members with the update on what's actually been taking place in the position within that service area. So Cabinet members are fully up to speed with that, and it's being scrutinised.
I'll accept the answer, and I'm prepared to leave it, and thank you for being forthright and letting me know. But all I would say is, and we came here before Christmas and we were really upset with the response that I think your councillor gave to us. It was a pre-written statement. It was factually incorrect, and we're going to take you up on that and come back and raise a point of order at the next full council because you gave us an inaccurate statement, which is quite poor. Somebody should have checked that, right? The other point is, if you've got a policy but you haven't got any people in there to enforce it, I understand you've just hired one person to be an enforcement person. You know, it's not hard these days to bring consultants in or others in to fill gaps or whatever.
Can I just stop you? I recognise how difficult this is for you and for your community.
It's not difficult for me.
No, I recognise
It really isn't.
I recognise how difficult it is, the situation that you're living in for you and your community. Absolutely. We're only supposed to stop for...
No. The only reason I have a personal involvement in this, now I'm going to say...
Can I just say...
You've had an outstanding planning enforcement allegation against me on my property, not in relation to the travellers, since 2023. And I've been living with this every day, wondering, am I going to get a letter saying what I have to do? I shouldn't have to wait 3 years to be told.
Can I make a suggestion about how we deal with this?
You guys have got to get your acts together, that's all I'm saying.
So
okay?
in terms of us getting our acts together and making sure you're getting what you need, then can I suggest that you have a meeting? I'm sure that Councillor Adams will organise it, so if you could talk to him outside of this meeting, and then we can make sure that any officers that will help you with the issues that you're raising will give you the answers that you need.
That's fine, thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, so if we could now move to item 2 on the agenda. Apologies for absence. No, Councillor McFarlane, you actually now sit on this group, so it's not a point for you to ask questions because you're actually part of this group. And also, we only have 1 minute left. If you've got a question in 1 minute.
It's 15 minutes. I mean, it's 10 till 6:07.
No, the meeting started on time at 6:30.
The public question starts at 6:32, and it's still...
We have 15 minutes. Councillor McFarlane.
12 minutes and 8 seconds.
We've got 12.
I started the clock at the beginning of the first question.
Thank you. Councillor McFarlane, normally this wouldn't happen because you actually sit on this group.
Councillor, you asked me at the last meeting if I had questions, and I was sat here.
But this is this meeting, Councillor McFarlane. If you want to ask a question, then I will permit it.
Thank you.
But can I suggest that in future, you speak to us. You are part of this meeting now. You don't need to do this. You're not classed as a member of the public right now. You were actually sat on this group.
Thank you. What role does Bassetlaw Council have in enforcing housing standards in the private rented sector when damp complaints are made?
Councillor McFarlane, may I suggest that you raise this outside of this meeting, because this is not what this meeting is about. This is a cabinet meeting and you are part of it.
Well, business, Chair, we've got a big agenda.
This is a point of order, actually. Under the code of conduct.
Can't really code of conduct complaints in a meeting.
Sorry, can we just repeat that? You can't raise a code of conduct complaint to the managing officer within a meeting. It can only be submitted to the managing officer in writing after the meeting.
Thank you. So, Councillor McFarlane, can I suggest, you are a councillor sat on this meeting, can we deal with the information on this agenda, and then we're absolutely happy. If you want to ask those questions outside this meeting, that's fine. Councillor Sheila.
Yeah, just in terms of housing and estates, Alison and myself are more than happy to have a conversation with you about the work that we have to undertake. So you can give us your availability for the week commencing, is it the 25th of February?
Thank you. This is me. It wasn't me a follow-up question because I did introduce a motion a couple of years ago about damp and private sector properties. I just want to update how we're getting on with the motion that was passed
So,
a
Councillor
couple of years ago.
McFarlane, we've run out of time for questions, but actually you are a member of this council. You can bring issues to cabinet members at any point in time. If we can move now,
We've just
if
had
we
another
can
councillor ask
just,
questions.
if
You didn't
we,
raise that.
but he's not sat on this group, is he, Councillor
So you
McFarlane?
can't raise his question with members.
But he's
of the
not
group.
sat on this
Okay.
committee, is he, Councillor McFarlane? So, if we now move on to item 2, apologies for absence.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just one apology to Councillor Field.
Thank you. And then if we move on to item 3, declarations of interest by members. Are there any? No. Declarations of interest by officers? No. Item 4, then minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of November 2025. Are they a true record? Thank you. And any issues arising? No. Then, if we move to minutes of the meeting held on the 6th of January 2026, which was the budget meeting, are they a true record? Thank you. Any issues arising? No. So if you now move to item 5, outstanding minutes list, pages 21 to 24, are there any updates? No. And then if we move to item 6, the forward plan to approve or find out if there are any updates on pages 25 to 40. Any issues regarding the forward plan? No. So then if we move to item 7A, the report of the Cabinet Member for Identity in Place, Councillor Scawthorne, on pages 41 to 144. Councillor Scawthorne.
Thank you, Chair. Today's report is about choice. It's about whether we step forward and lead regeneration in Worksop, or whether we allow decline, underinvestment and missed opportunities to take hold. The Pride and Place programme represents the most significant regeneration opportunity this town has seen in a generation. It has evolved from earlier government initiatives into a framework that finally recognises a simple truth. Communities in Worksop know what they need, and they deserve the tools and investment to deliver it. This council has stepped up to that challenge. Let me be clear from the outset, this is not a talking shop, it's not a vague aspiration, it is a fully worked up 10-year vision, backed by a 4-year regeneration plan, and underpins up to 20 million of the government funding. Money that will not come again if we choose not to act. As members, we also need to be clear about responsibilities. This council is the accountable body. That means we are in control, we hold the funding, we set the standards, and we ensure public money is spent properly. The Worksop Together board provides local leadership and direction, with accountability rests here with us. That is exactly as it should be. The vision before you has been shaped by the people of Worksop, not imposed on them. Nearly 700 residents took part in the consultation. They told us clearly what they want: jobs and businesses to thrive, opportunities for young people, skills and training, a town centre with life and purpose, and events to build on community pride. Those were not individual priorities, they were common sense priorities that are mirrored in our vision. The programme focused on 3 things that matter deeply to residents: stronger communities, a town centre that works, powers and pride returning to local people. And yes, it requires investment. Investment in public spaces, investment in businesses, investment in people, but the cost is not invested so far. The cost is of not invested is far higher, and to shops, disengage of people, decline footfall, and a loss of confidence that becomes self-fulfilling. This plan doesn't just talk about ambition, it delivers structure. Funding has been split sensibly between capital and revenue, governance is clear, a local assurance framework has been put in place. Every project will go through a business case progress. There is oversight, accountability and transparency throughout. Members should note this point clearly. Walking away from this programme means walking away from 19.54 million. There is no plan B, there is no alternative pot waiting in the wings. Choosing not to endorse this is a choice to accept stagnation, and that choice will sit firmly with us. The government has already reviewed the submission. Locally, the board is preparing projects so they can go straight into delivery from April 26. This is momentum, and a momentum matters. Chair, this vision aligns with our wider ambitions for the district. It supports growth, fairness, opportunity and pride in place. It sends a clear message that Worksop matters, that we believe in its future and that the Council is prepared to lead. The recommendations, therefore, before you are straightforward: to endorse this programme, to accept the funding and to give officers the authority they need to get on with the delivery. I would urge members not to underestimate what this moment represents. This is not business as usual, this is a statement of intent. I commend the recommendations to members and urge you all to support them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scofford. Mrs. Bradford, do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add, Chair, but happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from members? No? Thank you. I think this is a real opportunity for Worksop to make a difference, particularly to the town centre area. So thank you, Councillor Scofford, for bringing this report. Can I ask, is this agreed? Yeah. Any abstentions or objections? No. So agreed. Thank you. So can we now move to 7B, supplementary planning documents, trees and development. This is again Councillor Scofford.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to explain the decision we have been asked to take today and why it matters to the people who live and work in Bassetlaw. The Council has been asked to adopt 2 pieces of planning guidance. These are called supplementary planning documents, SPDs for short. But simply, they explain how the local plan policies should be applied in real life. They don't create new planning rules and they don't give developers extra rights. Instead, they help make sure planning decisions are clear, more concise and better for our communities. The first document is called Trees and Development. Trees, woods and hedgerows are a vital part of Bassetlaw's character, and the wildlife, they help wildlife, reduce flooding, improve air quality, support mental well-being and contribute to the look and feel of the towns and countrysides. This guidance explains how developers are expected to protect existing trees and hedgerows. design new developments so that trees are kept and cared for properly, plant new trees in the right places so they thrive long term rather than become a problem. We consulted widely on this document and many organisations and residents supported the approach. Communities were carefully considered and the guidance has been improved in response. We've strengthened sections on ancient woodland, hedgerows, conservation areas and how trees contribute to the historic character of the place. Importantly, this document does not introduce new costs or new planning rules. It simply sets out clearly what is already expected under the local plan, helping everyone understand what good development looks like. The second document relates to Clumber Park, one of the most important and sensitive nature spaces. Clumber Park is a site of special scientific interest. It's loved by many people, but increased housing in the wider area can lead to more visitors, which, if not managed carefully, can damage wildlife and habitat. This guidance sets out fair and practical ways to manage these pressures. It ensures that new development helps fund measures to protect the park, such as monitoring and managing visitor impact without putting the burden on existing residents. This approach has been welcomed by organisations such as Natural England and the National Trust. In fact, this is the only second piece of guidance of its kind anywhere in England, showing that Bassetlaw is taking a thoughtful and responsible approach to balancing new homes and the environmental protection. For residents, what does it mean in practice? It means clear expectations from developers, better designed planning applications, faster and more consistent decisions, stronger protection for trees, wildlife and valued green spaces. I firm a bias for the Council to refuse poor quality and harmful proposals. Once adopted, these documents will be publicly available on the Council's website and in Council buildings. In closing, these decisions support long-term vision for Bassetlaw, protecting what makes the district special, managing growth responsible, tackling climate control and improving quality of life for our communities. They give residents confidence in development, will be properly controlled, and they give the Council strong tools to protect the environment to the current and future generations. I would like to thank the planning policy team for the considerable time and effort they have put into preparing this and previous supplementary planning documents. Developing the SPD requires detailed work, careful consideration of evidence and consultation feedback, and the team have approached this with professional and committed throughout. These results are clear and robust. This results in clear and robust documents that will provide valuable guidance and strengthen our planning framework. On behalf of the Cabinet, I would like to place it on record our sincere thanks to everybody involved in their hard work and dedication. Chair, the recommendations are set out at point 6.1, 6.2 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scotland. I'm aware that Mrs Johnson's not here. Officers, is there anything to add?
Nothing to add, but again, if there's any questions,
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councillor Polk.
That's a question. I'd just like to thank Councillor Scotland for this. I think it's a brilliant piece of work, and I think it shows how forward-looking Bassetlaw have been in the first two to come up with this document. It also shows the importance of having a vision beyond the existence of this council, because this dovetails nicely into our 2040 vision, and it shows that what you do now has an impact now and into the future, and that's what you have to do. If you're a responsible, progressive council, you have to look beyond your nose, but look beyond that. The things this does mention in there, which I'll just touch on, health and well-being is a really important agenda. It's an agenda important for all of us. Trees, countryside, environment are critical in mental health and physical health, so it dovetails into that. It also talks about something which I'm very involved in, mitigating flooding, and I think this is something else we have to look at, not just now, but into the future. Planting the right trees in the right place and managing things in a sensible way has a definite positive outcome, which affects a lot of people in Bassetlaw who unfortunately do suffer from flooding. So that's obviously something we think about. And the last thing to say, I won't go on too long, and we've got a big agenda, but the environmental impacts, reducing carbon and things like that. And once again, this is a long-term vision that Bassetlaw has embraced. We look beyond our noses, as I keep saying. So I thank you, Councillor Scotland, and I think it's marvellous. Oh, last thing, it's not going to cost us any extra money because it's being funded through existing budgets, which is always a good sign.
Thank you, Councillor Bulk. I couldn't agree more. Any other questions or comments? So if we move to the vote, the recommendations are on page 150, 6.1 and 6.2. All in favour? Any against or any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you very much. So if we now move to the report of the Cabinet Member for Housing and Estates and Cabinet Member for Corporate and Financial Services, Councillor Rhodes and Councillor Slater. This is the Housing Capital Programme. So there is an error in the papers. So it's Councillor Rhodes and Councillor Schumer. I think Councillor Rhodes, are you speaking first on this one?
I'm going first.
You're going first, Councillor Schumer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to consider and approve the Housing Capital Programme for 26-27 through to 30-31. The Council is required to produce a 30-year business plan for housing revenue account, which identifies the levels of capital expenditure required to maintain the council housing stock as a minimum at the decent home standard prescribed by central government into future years. The stock condition surveys that have been carried out have identified that the council's housing stock largely meets the decent home standard, with investment in stock to date having been directed mainly in relation to typical decent homes work, such as kitchens, bathrooms, electrical installations, heating and external doors. The stock condition survey that have been carried out resulted in 80% of the housing stock having physically been surveyed. These results have been analysed and used to inform the capital programme of 26-27 through 30-31, set out in Appendix 1. A new stock condition surveyor has been procured, and as part of that contract agreement, 100% of the stock will have been surveyed by December 2026, and again in every 3-year period moving forward. The surveys and their use to inform future housing capital programmes will ensure that the council meets the regulator of housing's standards, consumer standards, quality and safety standards and the required outcomes. The overall capital programme focuses on the 10-year key objectives from the Housing Services Asset Management Plan, which was approved by Cabinet on the 25th of November 2025. Its focus remains on the modernisation of properties to maintain the decent home standards. Currently, 97.55% of the housing stock meets the decent home standard as of the 1st of January 2026. When stock does not meet the standards, 2.45%, this is where work is programmed in to ensure they meet the standard by the 31st of March 2026. Highlights of the programme include a total of 40.8 million has been identified as a 5-year commitment to maintain the housing stock at minimum decency levels and improve the energy efficiency of the housing stock. A total of 13.1 million has been identified for programmes of work associated with compliance, risk management and associated health and safety within the housing stock. The Social Housing Regulator Act 2023 and the RSH Consumer Standards have explicitly identified building safety as a top priority for social landlords. The commitment for work to to external areas and the estate environment of 6.1 million in 26-27 and an outline total of 11.4 million invested by the end of 2030-31. This includes major estate improvements work which has already commenced on the Carlton Wimp estate, external and environmental improvements to be to the flatted areas, including roads, footpaths, parks and garage sites. Commitments to meet Equality Act requirements for tenants living with a disability and further home adaptations are being put forward, with some 0.6 million in 26-27 and a total of 3 million by the end of 30-31. A sum of 2.62 million in 25-26 and a further 2.66 million has been included within the programme for the acquisition of new housing until 2030-31. In order to continue to address the housing needs of our elderly population and ensure that our accommodation provision meets their needs and expectations, a provision of 6.3 million has been included for the refurbishment of our existing independent living schemes at Conway Gardens and Swallow Court for the period 26-27 to 28-29.
Chair, can I add that the Housing Capital Programme for 2026-27 to 2030-31 totals 94.3 million, and this will be funded through a combination of borrowing, capital receipts, major repairs reserve and the housing revenue account balances. Although capital receipts from council house sales can be used to finance capital expenditure, from 2026-27 onwards the contribution from these receipts towards the cost of maintaining existing stock will fall significantly. This is due to changes to the right to buy scheme that are expected to result in a reduction in the number of council house sales. The reduction in capital receipts will need funding from additional borrowing if the level of spend estimated is to be maintained. All costs associated with the level of borrowing required to fund the proposed capital programme have been included in the HRA business plan to ensure that it's affordable. By ensuring that investments made in the existing housing stock and the estate environment will mean that tenants' homes are in a reasonable state of repair, have access to modern facilities, are warm, safe and free from risk. Recommendations are at paragraphs 6.1, 6.5 and I'm happy to move the report, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor.
So I'll shout louder because my microphone's not working. Ah, the magic touch. Thank you, councillors. So, Ms Luddick and Mrs Craig, do you have anything to add?
I have nothing to add, but happy to take any questions and I'm sure it's the same.
Chair, if I might just add a post note to this. Could I thank Alison and Karen for the provision of the work that has been undertaken. And I'd just like to re-signpost people to the fact that a 30-year plan seeks to ensure that our statutory requirements in terms of decent homes are met. The budget continues to allow us to meet our requirements of decent homes. It also steers us on course for financial surety. We are clear that we wish for improvements as we look forward to increasing our stock survey from a 5-year to a 3-year cycle. We are moving to meet demand with the positives of right to buy receipts remaining and increasing our ability to actively work for our residents, which is something that that will be maintained moving forward thanks to our current government. It provides stability and I'm really happy to recommend this report.
Thank you, Councillor Shearer. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Thorpe.
Can I ask Alison Craig, please? With the reduction of sales of houses,
will this affect our overall housing stock? Because at the moment we sell houses and the housing stock is diminishing. Will this have a positive or negative effect on how many properties that moving forward that Bassetlaw will have in its portfolio?
So whilst the changes to the right to buy will reduce the amount of properties that we're selling each year. In recent years we've been selling approximately 50 properties a year. We are making assumptions that that may drop to as low as 13 properties a year. Conversely, that loss of right to buy receipts, which can be retained to invest both in the existing stock and in the provision of new stock, will reduce as set out in the report and as Councillor Roach just explained. So to continue to...
It didn't give us a net figure as to what the impact, because sorry if I may, I was under the impression that the amount we got for selling things didn't actually equate to replacing stock. So if we sell less, I'm making assumptions, we would actually maintain more stock. That's what I was really trying to ask.
Yes, so we'll maintain more stock, we'll just have less money to put towards acquiring or building new properties, because retained receipts, whilst they're described as one-for-one receipts, the sale of one property wouldn't equate to the amount needed to buy a replacement property. We'll continue to fund an acquisitions programme in the capital programme by using what receipts we do have available, but also borrowing or supplementing that income with accessing grants for new affordable housing from Homes England.
I'm still not aware whether it's a positive thing for increasing our stock or a negative thing. So who knows?
It's a bit...
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's less negative.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McNaughton.
Thank you. As a ward council, I think we all accept that a lot of investments going into social housing properties across the district. What percentage of that budget is going to be used to tackle damp and mould in council properties?
Mrs. Gregg.
Zoom in on my spreadsheet. So within the 5-year capital programme set out at Appendix 1, there is a provision for damp and ventilation works. So that's capital works of £810,000 over the next 5-year period in terms of capital works. However, there is also monies in the revenue provision, so responsive repairs meeting the requirements of our Bassetlaw, which is the next item on the agenda, because we have a duty of damp proof and undertake capital works, but also respond to responsive repairs of damp and mould and condensation.
Thank you. Councillor Collins.
Thank you for that. I think we can all accept that damp is a serious health hazard for many tenants. It's something that needs addressing. The only other question I've got is looking at the equality impact assessment. I can understand some of the positive impacts that this will have on certain categories, but I'm not sure what the positive impact this has directly on sexuality. Would you be able to update me on that?
So capital investment works are carried out at properties based on the need of the property, so irrespective of the protected characteristic of the tenant and their household. So all tenants, irrespective of those protected characteristics, will benefit from capital improvements, and that's why it's been identified as a positive impact on any member of that household receiving those works.
Thank you. Councillor Scotland.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I enjoyed this programme. I always did when I was portfolio. I always thought the capital programme was one of the best budgets within the council. More I'm saying that. But I'd like to bring people's attention to 3.11 and the housing capital. How the housing capital programme demonstrates a strong value for money that maximises the use of the retained right to buy receipts, avoiding additional borrowing and maximising financial risk, minimising financial risk. Investments have been focused on acquisitions and asset improvements and to deliver affordable housing quickly, meeting identified housing needs and making effective use of existing assets. Overall, the approach reflects prudent financial management and ensures limited resources are deployed to achieve sustainable outcomes for our residents and the housing revenue account. Chair, I congratulate everybody involved in this report.
Thank you, Councillor Scotland. Councillor Stewart.
It's okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? So the recommendations are on page 225, 6.1, 2, 3. Oh, there's no 3. 6.1, 6.2, 6.4 and 6.5. All in favour? Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much. So if we now move to 8B on the agenda, the Housing Revenue Account Budget of future years, again, Councillor Shearer and Councillor Rhodes.
Just read this down, I believe, Chair. The purpose of this report is to consider and approve the Housing Revenue Account Budget for 2026-27, provide indicative figures for 2027-28 to 2030-31, and to make recommendations to extraordinary accounts on the 26th of February 2026, to set the budget and rent levels for 2026-27. Unlike the General Fund that comprises a range of different services, the Housing Revenue Account is a single service account which is funded by tenant rent income for the social housing. Therefore, all decisions on income and expenditure will have a direct impact on tenant service levels and the level of investment in their homes. The Housing Revenue Account is shown at Appendix 1. Any favourable variance from the expected outturn in the year will be retained within the HRA working balance. Assumptions used to set the budget include the rent increase that was approved as part of the rent setting report, staffing resource changes that were introduced as a result of increased demands for repairs and disrepair claims, and a pay award of 3% in 2026-27. Assumptions have also been made around inflation, interest rates, borrowing levels and bad debt rates. The budget includes £12 million for responsive repairs. This compares to 28 million for planned capital maintenance and compares very closely to the standard recommended split of 40-60%. All elements of the HRA budget and business plan are subject to review in relation to value for money. In addition, the impact of any general fund budget review savings and service reviews could achieve reductions in costs for the housing revenue account. Paragraphs 3.33 demonstrates that overall HRA revenue balances remain above the recommended annual minimum balance required until year 24 of the 30-year business plan. The recommended level of working balance was significantly increased during the 2024-25 financial year, improving the overall financial resilience of the housing revenue account. In summary, Chair, the Council has a self-sufficient HRA in which income from tenants is used to pay for the delivery of services to tenants and investment in the housing stock. The Council takes full responsibility for managing and maintaining its own housing stock in return for access to all its revenue income. For these reasons, the budget has been framed to minimise any risks identified. The 2026-27 budget will set the foundation for the next 30 years of the Council House funding in Bassetlaw. Recommendations of paragraph 6.1, 6.4, recommendation 6.1 should read that members approve the housing revenue account budget set out in Appendix 1 of the report for 2026-27. Chair, just do the type of that, and I move the report.
finance and housing. So are there any comments from Ms Liddick or Ms Craig?
Nothing to add, thank you, Chair, but happy to take questions. Likewise.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from members? Councillor McFarlane.
Thank you. The council is addressing its long-term issue of the amount of void properties we've got across the district. How much lost income are we in a year is there in terms of the rental that we are losing on those properties?
Ms Liddick, who's going to answer that question? Ms Liddick.
So the HRA business plan that's attached as Appendix 1 shows that for 26-27 we've got an allowance in the void losses of £485,000. It is normal to have a void loss allowance within a HRA business plan. There is always going to be a churn of properties in there.
I understand that our voids are about 4% of our stock, which I think is around average across the country. Councillor McFarlane, do you have a further question?
Thank you. It's good to hear that the number is actually dropping. I know it reached a peak during the pandemic and it seems to come back down to an acceptable level. In terms of those properties that are voids at the moment, how many of them will not be able to return to the market because of the inability to adapt them for the tenants? And what's the plan for them? Is the council looking to sell them or develop them in a different way?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, so some of the properties, when I spoke to an officer a year ago, some of them weren't able to be adapted, so some of the bungalows, for example, are no longer in reach the requirements now compared to when they were first built. So what's the plan in terms of that if they can't be returned back to the rental market?
Mrs Craig, would that be for you to answer?
So, in terms of current voids, there is one property that Cabinet took a decision to dispose of in December, which was severely fire and water damaged. That property is progressing through to auction at the present time. And there's a forthcoming report to Cabinet on the 10th of March recommending the disposal of 2 further properties which are suffering from severe structural issues. They are the only 3 properties that are currently void where there is any recommendation to dispose of those properties with the remediation costs outweighing the property values. All of any void bungalows we can and are letting those. However, there is less demand for 1-bedroom bungalows, but we can let those properties and are doing so.
Thank you. Councillor Sheila.
Yeah, it appears that you're asking that if we have properties that we can't adapt to be lived in, and that's my question, because I'm wondering where that information's come from, because there's just 2 properties that we've further got to deal with that we won't be able to, that wouldn't be cost effective, so we can't facilitate the repairs of them. But you're talking about adaptations, and I can't understand where you've got that information from.
In terms of the adaptations, I think it was last an officer a couple of years ago, there's certain bungalows that were able because they couldn't extend the size of the door frames for wheelchairs, they couldn't make certain adaptations because of the size of the properties. I just would randomly that we currently have in stock that were void that would have to be dealt with.
So the adaptation, if they can't be adapted, that doesn't mean that we can't let them to another person. So
Well, that's what I was asking.
I think the answer is that...
Well, the answer is no.
Yeah. Because not everybody has the same disability, so everybody needs a larger doorway. Is that question fully answered?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, from my perspective, I'm asking head of housing, we don't have a policy for re-equiting properties. We do it on an individual basis in accordance with the circumstances, and a full comprehensive assessment and report is brought to Cabinet before any decision is made. So I think, through you, Chair, that there is no implication that we are trying to offload properties that are fit for habitation. That is not the remit of this council, and it's not the course that we follow. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, that's correct. If we wanted to dispose of a property, we would bring a business case forward to Cabinet.
Thank you. Unless there are any more comments or questions, the recommendations are on page 249, 6.1, 2, 3 and 4. All in favour? No against and no abstentions. That's carried. Thank you. So if we now move to item 9A on the agenda, which is the report of the Cabinet Member for Corporate and Financial Services, Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Chair. This report sets out the level of fees and charges for 2026-27 in accordance with the Council's corporate charging policy. Fees and charges are a significant income stream for the Council. It's important that they're maximised so far as possible to support the budget position. The main source of fees and charges is shown in the table at 3.2, and this shows that the proposed 2026-27 budget includes £4.9 million of fees and charges. Corporate charging policy forms the basis of all fees and charges set within the Council, establishes clear principles for charging and integrates charging into service management linking with corporate objectives. The Council's default position should be full cost recovery wherever possible, but the policy is flexible enough to allow variations due to market conditions. Full list of 26-27 fees and charges set out at Appendix 1. A full review of fees and charges has been undertaken during the year, which has resulted in proposed increases in some areas such as building control and a move to full cost recovery, and in other areas a 3.8% inflationary increase being applied. When setting fees and charges, attention needs to be paid to the level those fees are set at. They need to support the underlying principles of the corporate charging policy, but with an aim to secure maximum income levels for the Council. Pitching the fee and charge at the correct level is likely too high, and it may encourage people to find an alternative service provider, meaning the Council could lose income. Too low, the Council will not be recovering its costs. After consideration of environmental factors, propose that market fees are frozen at 25-26 levels, given the challenging environment they're operating in, and new discounts have been introduced to encourage long-term stall bookings. It's also proposed that green wage charges, which are set a year in advance for operational reasons, are frozen for 27-28 and 26-27 levels. A further review of fees and charges will take place in the 2026-27 financial year, and the recommendations, Chair, are set out in section 7 of the report.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Rose. Any questions or comments? Councillor McFarlane, I could have guessed.
Thank you. Looking at the totals for the different areas of the fee increases, we're looking at an increase from £675,000 to £982,000 increase for car parking. Is this because of behaviour changes as an increase in car parking fees?
Councillor Rose?
As a Council Chair, and I've said this before when we've debated this issue, we've been far too generous in the past. We're out of kilter with our neighbouring authorities, and we're not covering our costs. We want to make our car parking experience, if you like, as positive as possible, as safe as possible. We want to ensure that there's adequate lighting and that the bays are clearly marked. All of this costs money, and I'm very happy to defend the charges that we've introduced. I think they're fair, I think they're affordable, and I think they reflect the new technological age that we're in, by allowing people to not have to search around for this change, but pay by card or by using the Bingo app.
Thank you. Councillor Rose. Councillor McFarlane.
Okay. Just a separate question about the street trading licences. I can see that a new application fee is going from £480 to £646 per year. When I was on the licensing committee, we got told these charges were to cover the cost, and the council would not be making a profit on these. Why is the cost going up if that's the case?
Councillor Rose.
The indicated increase in licensing fees in relation to street trading licences, for the 2026-27 financial year has been included in the report for consideration by Cabinet and error. It's not the intention of the Council to increase any fees in relation to street trading for the 2026-27 financial year. They'll be frozen at their current rate. This applies to mobile consents, static consent, event consents and associated fees. In any event, the power to set licensing fees is delegated only to the licensing committee, who are entitled to follow the recommendation of Cabinet when setting fees or set fees differently. The report, which will be presented to the licensing committee on the 18th of February 2026, will not include any increased street trading fees and will include an explanatory note for the error in the advisory Cabinet report. Now the street trading resolution is in place, any change to fees will be subject to a statutory consultation under section 4, paragraph 9 of the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1982, which has not occurred in the 2026-27 financial year. I hope that helps colleagues to understand the Council's position, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Rose. Councillor McFarlane.
Thank you. So the report we've been given tonight that the councils are going to vote on is wrong and hasn't been corrected. Because how can you vote on a report that you've just admitted is wrong?
Here's me thinking, if you please, but I have taken away a little campaign, haven't I? So perhaps you're not so pleased.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of voting on this particular report, paragraph 3.20 of the report talks about licensing, and while the fees and charges are included in completeness, it is clear within the report that actually only the licensing committee will be voting on those increases. But I can confirm that the figure that was included within the report in this pack was included in error and will be corrected for the licensing committee report.
And I think, just for completeness, we're aware of the error. But again, I would repeat, Councillor McFarlane, we don't vote on that aspect here in Cabinet. That's the licensing committee.
But it's in the report you're about to vote on. You're about to vote that you know is wrong.
Councillor McFarlane, we're not voting on that particular part. It is the licensing committee who vote on that, not Cabinet. I'm not sure how to say it any differently. Is that okay? Yeah. Mr. Wellman.
Just to say, under the recommendation 7.1, it does actually say that it's subject to the ratification of licence fees by the licensing committee.
Thank you, Mr. Wellman.
I was going to say that, I'm just looking at it in front of me. Clearly says 7.1, subject to ratification of licence fees by the licence committee, which has constitutional responsibility. The constitutional responsibility for setting licensing fees. I think any member that sits on the licensing committee will be fully aware of that. So, you know, it is quite clear that that's within their gift.
Councillor McFarlane, do you want to ask? Sorry, do you want to ask something?
There are also a certain number of fees that go to licensing committee that still have to be advertised under statute. So although they're set locally, there will be still a period of public advertisement where there can be comments made, and licensing committee will convene there to consider such comments.
Thank you, Mrs. Baker. Is that okay? Councillor McFarlane?
Thank you. So these, if the licensing committee has got to ratify these, it just means that these proposals are going to be recommended to the licensing committee, or the licensing committee start with the existing fees, or the proposals that comes about to vote on.
Do you know, I thought that I was really good at explaining things, and I'm clearly not managing it here. This is not the remit of Cabinet to vote on or to tell the licensing committee what to do. The licensing committee is its own body, and it will make the decision and it will vote on it. It is not something that Cabinet can force them or ask them to do in one way or another. It is up to the licensing committee. Is that okay, Councillor McFarlane?
It does answer the question. The licensing committee is being asked to ratify these figures or are they being asked to produce their own figures?
So obviously I'm not able to explain that. The licensing committee will make its own mind about these figures. It's not for the cabinet to do. I don't think I can explain it any differently. I can't explain it any differently. It is not the cabinet who makes the decision or ratifies it. So, other than that, are there any other comments or questions that anyone has?
There's one comment. There's another comment.
Councillor McFarland.
Thank you. So in terms of your position as a member of the cabinet, you could put recommendations to the licensing committee. Are you going to recommend that these fees are frozen to support small businesses across Bassetlaw, or are you going to put forward the recommendation to increase them as per this report?
Okay. I can't say it any differently. Mrs. Bacon.
I believe that he's going to, I've spoken to with Rich today, the licensing, principal solicitor for licensing, and those fees are going to be amended before the report is put before licensing committee. So there will be a revised schedule. There will either be corrected in the body of the report that there is a correction to take forward and that will be carried forward in the recommendation, or if possible working with finance colleagues, we will update the schedule which will be appended to the report.
Thank you. Just for clarification, it will not be cabinet that does that. So, any other questions or comments? So, the recommendations are on page 258, 7.1, 2 and 3. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you. So if we now move to 9B, which is the asset management plan, this is on page 303, and again, Councillor Rose.
Chair, thank you. The asset management plan sets out a forward-thinking approach to managing the council's property portfolio and demonstrates a clear commitment to sound financial management, sustainability and service transformation. It reflects significant progress already made and builds on previous successes such as reducing vacant space, repurposing key buildings like Queen's buildings into multi-agency hubs, and delivering major projects including the Bridge Skills Hub and Eastern Yard, which have strengthened local regeneration and economic growth. The plan shows how the council is proactively aligned with its estate, with strategic priorities and service needs, ensuring the right property is available in the right place at the right time. By embedding a corporate landlord model, we've introduced a more consistent and efficient approach to property management, supported by a comprehensive condition survey, compliance monitoring and lifecycle planning. This ensures assets remain safe, fit for purpose and financially sustainable. Strong progress has also been made on energy efficiency, and targeted investment is underway to meet future regulatory standards. Significant grant funding has been secured for the decarbonisation of leisure centres, reducing carbon emissions and lowering long-term operating costs, which reinforces financial resilience. A key strength of the strategy is its focus on rationalisation and reinvestment. Surplus and underperforming assets are being identified for disposal, releasing capital receipts to fund regeneration and service transformation using capital receipt flexibilities. Council's partnership with S8T is unlocking commercial opportunities and improving management of the investment portfolio, ensuring assets achieve competitive returns and contribute positively to the medium-term financial plan. Harrison Drive has recently been transferred to S8T's management, with Ashvale and Tuxford scheduled next, and works progressing on the private centres to strengthen occupancy and improve its role as a key town centre asset. Car parks are being modernised following a comprehensive review in 2025. Digital payment systems, enhanced security measures and flexible pricing structures are being introduced to balance affordability with financial sustainability. These improvements will support local businesses and encourage footfall while maintaining a critical income stream. Looking ahead, the Council is preparing for local government reorganisation by ensuring its estate is lean, efficient and adaptable. This future-proofing approach, combined with robust governance and partnership work, will position Bassetlaw strongly for structural change. Regeneration remains a central priority, with flagship projects such as a private centre redevelopment and significant external funding secured to deliver long-term investment in Worksop and Retford. In summary, the asset management plan provides a clear roadmap for managing assets strategically and responsibly. It demonstrates how effective asset management underpins service delivery, financial resilience and regeneration, ensuring Bassetlaw's property portfolio continues to support community prosperity and economic growth well into the future. The recommendations are set out, Chair, and I move the report.
Thank you, Councillor Rose. Mr Wellman, have you anything to add?
Nothing to add, but we'll take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councillor McFarlane.
Thank you. Now we're going towards the end of the Bassetlaw project. What were the final financial figures for that, and did the council make a loss on that project?
Question the officer.
Mr Wellman.
We're currently working on those final figures, and they will be reported through the company governance subcommittee in due course.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
This one's mine as well. Just in terms of the skills up, on a day-to-day basis in a financial year, what profit or loss did the skills up make for the last financial year?
Mr Wellman.
We don't know the figure offhand, so I can report back in writing if that's okay.
That's fine, thank you.
Thank you. So, we have no more questions or comments. The recommendations are on page 304, 6.1, all in favour. And that's carried. Thank you very much. We now move to 9C, Council Tax Reduction Scheme. Councillor Rose.
Chair, once again, thank you. The Local Government Finance Act 2012 requires each billing authority to set a local scheme for council tax reduction by way of discounts for residents of financial need. This report sets out the council tax reduction scheme for 2026-27. Council tax reduction for people of pension age is prescribed by government regulations and can only be amended by annual uprating of pensions and allowances set by government. The council has discretion on the scheme in relation to working age claimants. Those eligible to obtain reduction under the scheme were resolved by council in 2020, and the eligibility criteria is set out in paragraph 3.4 of this report. As of 30th of November 2025, there were 7,676 claims of payment, and the total cost of the scheme for 2025-26 is estimated to be £9.3 million, shared across all Nottinghamshire preceptors. Bassetlaw's share of this cost equates to £940,000. A full review of the scheme was undertaken by officers during 2025-26, which concluded that the scheme remains fair, affordable, and supports the most vulnerable residents. Therefore, for the 2026-27 financial year, it's proposed that the only changes to the scheme are in respect of inflationary increases to the income bands. We're proposing that these are increased in line with September CPI at 3.8%. This is the same percentage increase that will be applied to DWP benefits and will ensure that working age claimants are not disadvantaged through an increase in their benefits. This increase would increase the total costs of the scheme to £9.75 million, of which Bassetlaw's share will be £990,000, an increase of £50,000 on the 25-26 costs. Shareholder claimants will continue to have access to a discretionary hardship fund if paying an increase in the council tax causing severe hardship or exceptional circumstances. The council scheme remains a generous one in relation to other neighbouring authorities. Recommendations, Chair, are set out in section 6 of the report.
Thank you, Councillor Rose. Ms Luddick, do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add, thank you, Chair. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councillor McFarlane.
Thank you. As we all welcome the decision to uprate these rates with inflation at the 3.8%, my question would be, because the state pension is actually going up by 4.8%, how many pensions are actually going to be dragged into paying higher council council tax because of the higher percentage increase in state pension?
I'm not sure we can answer that, Ms Luddick.
No, all I will say is that the scheme in relation to pensions is not discretionary, it is actually set by government, so the pension element of the scheme is not something that we've got any sort of control over.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No? So, if we move to the recommendations at page 335, 6.1, all in favour? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So if we now move to item 9D, the Treasury Management Policy and Strategy, Councillor Rose.
Again. It's a requirement of the Shipford Code of Practice on Treasury Management that Council receive as a minimum 3 reports on Treasury Management, an annual Treasury Management strategy for the year ahead, an in-year review and an annual report covering the activities of the previous year. The purpose of this report is to seek approval for the first of those reports, the Treasury Management Strategy for 2026-27, which incorporates the borrowing strategy, investment strategy, minimum revenue provision policy and prudential indicators. The Council's capital expenditure plans are the key driver of Treasury management activity. Prudential indicators set out in section 2 of the strategy. And these have been based on the proposed General Fund and HRA capital programmes, but are also being considered on this agenda. The indicators are designed to assist with overview of the programme and confirm capital expenditure plans are prudent, affordable and sustainable. Council's capital financing requirement, which is a measure of the Council's underlying need to borrow, is estimated to rise over the next 5 years as a result of borrowing required to fund the capital programmes. The affordability ratios set out in paragraph 2.3 show that this level of borrowing remains affordable. Assumptions around the HRA borrowing levels have also been reflected in the HRA business plan and budget to ensure affordability. And more information on this is included in the HRA budget reports included elsewhere on this agenda. In respect to the Council's borrowing strategy, in section 3, there have been no significant changes. The Council will utilise internal borrowing wherever possible, but it's expected that the additional borrowing required will need to be externally borrowed. The Council's Treasury advisors have provided an interest rate forecast for future years. As a further fall in interest rates is expected over the coming year, external borrowing will be taken initially on a short-term basis to avoid locking into long-term borrowing whilst interest rates remain high. It's a requirement of the Code that the Council sets limits on its external debt. These are included at 3.2. The Council's investment strategy is set out in section 4, and the security of the Council investments remains the primary objective, with liquidity and yield coming second to that. The Council will continue to use MUFG corporate markets as its external Treasury management advisors, and officers will continue to apply the creditworthiness service provided by them to assess counterparties before placing any investments, in addition to other external sources of market data and market information. Chair, the Council is required to calculate a prudent provision of minimum revenue provision, which ensures that the Council's outstanding debt liability is repaid over a suitable period. The MRP policy statement set out at 2.7 reflects the results of the MRP review carried out by the Council's Treasury Management Advisors during 24-25. Recommendations, Chair, are set out in section 6 of the report.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Ms Luddick, do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add, thank you, Chair. That's it.
Any questions or comments from anyone? Councillor Farland.
Thank you. I'm just looking at the table 3 new capital fund bids, and it seems to be money put aside for the Priory Centre refurbishment, asbestos removal. Yet when I've asked previously about asbestos or rack in the building, I've been reassured a number of times that there was no asbestos in the Priory Centre. So why are we now going to pay to have it removed if it never existed?
I think that's actually the next report, Councillor McFarlane. That's the capital strategy report. This is Treasury Management.
So, Councillor Councillor McFarland, we're on page 337, Treasury Management Report and Strategy.
Sorry, I clicked on the wrong link.
Okay. So, in the absence of any questions or comments, are we all in favour? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So, Councillor McFarland, we are moving to the next one now, which is 9E, Capital Investment Strategy and General Fund Capital Programme. Councillor Rose.
Chair, thank you. This report sets out the Capital Investment Strategy 26-27 and General Fund Capital Programme for 2026-27, 2030-31. The Housing Revenue Account Capital Programme has been considered in a separate report on tonight's agenda. The strategy outlines the principles and framework that shape the Council's capital investment decisions. Production of the strategy is a requirement of the Citford Prudential Code and is attached to Appendix A. The principal aim is to deliver a programme of capital investment that contributes to the achievement of the Council's priorities and objectives as set out in the Council Plan. It also reflects the aspirations that we include in the Asset Management Plan. Each year the Council agrees a 5-year rolling capital programme consistent with the MTFP, that's medium-term financial plan, and the resources available. The capital programme already includes £19.4 million of previously approved capital schemes. As part of the annual budget process, a number of new capital bids have been received. All the bids submitted have been scored in accordance with the capital prioritisation process set out in Appendix 1 to the strategy. This demonstrates how projects have been selected that will achieve the Council's overall objectives and are not biased towards particular service interests. Table 3 of the strategy sets out new capital schemes that are recommended to be added to the capital programme. For 2026-27, these schemes total £4.8 million. In later years, these schemes total £1.7 million. The new schemes are predominantly focused on essential improvements to council properties. These schemes will be funded through a combination of grants, reserves and borrowing. Schemes donated as pipeline schemes will be subject to further information or submission of a detailed business case. A full breakdown of all the schemes included in the capital programme is included in Appendix 2. The capital financing section of the strategy sets out that full capital programme will be financed with £15 million of the General Fund programme expected to be funded from external grants. This equates to almost 60% of the capital programme. The remaining programme will be financed from reserves and borrowing. Borrowing requirements have been included within the calculation of the Council Prudential indicators to ensure it's prudent, affordable and sustainable. These have been discussed in more detail as part of the Treasury Management Strategy Report. Chair, the recommendations are set out in section 6 of the report.
Thank you, Councillor Rose. Ms Luddick, do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add there, can I have some questions?
I knew that. Are there any questions or comments from anyone? Councillor McFarland.
Thank you. I'd like to re-ask my question about asbestos in the process.
So, I believe the question that was being asked previously was in relation to whether asbestos had been found in the priority centre that had impact on the development. And I'd like to confirm that I think in response to that we said that full asbestos survey had been carried out prior to the development and no further asbestos had been found that had any impact on that development. The item that's been included within the capital programme here, it's actually for 2 units that sit outside of the development. It's 2 specific units, it's units 44 and 45, and it's to do a full refurbishment of those units. And we know that there is some asbestos in there, which we've known about some time, and it's to remove that asbestos.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No. So the recommendations are on page 379 at 6.1, 6.2. All in favour? And that's carried. Thank you. So the next report is item 9F, the General Fund Budget. Councillor Rose.
Last one, hopefully. Chair, this report sets out the Council's General Fund Budget for 2026-27 and the medium-term financial plan through March 2029. It reflects a clear and disciplined financial strategy that prioritises stability, protects essential services, and positions the council to manage one of the most significant structural changes in decades, local government reorganisation from April 2028. Despite a challenging financial environment, the council delivered a balanced budget for 2026-27 through strong expenditure control, targeted income generation, and sustained focus on transformation. This approach ensures that services continue to meet residents' needs while modernising operations for the future. This is no mean feat and a testament to the high quality financial management plan we have in place as a council. The cornerstone of this strategy is the deliberate strengthening of reserves to provide resilience and flexibility. By March 2026, General Fund reserve is forecast to reach £17.3 million, including £1 million working balance and earmarked reserves for specific priorities. The creation of a dedicated capital financing reserve will help offset borrowing costs and protect service budgets as we invest in essential assets. These measures demonstrate forward planning and provide the capacity to absorb economic shocks and manage transitional costs associated with reorganisation. The Council has taken these steps against the backdrop of sustained reductions in government funding, demographic pressures and economic uncertainty. Nationally, councils have lost £16 billion in support over the past decade, while inflation and rising demand have compounded financial strain. Locally, Bassetlaw's population is projected to grow to 123,400 by 2026, with a sharp increase in residents aged 65 and over, creating future pressures on health and social care. Our low council tax base, with nearly half of the properties in Band A, doubling the national average, limits revenue generation and reinforces the need for careful financial planning. Economic conditions have improved, with inflation falling from 11.1% in October 2022 to 3.2% in November 2025, and forecast to drop below 2% by 2027. Interest rates remain at 3.75%, with a slight easing expected. While these trends are positive, cost pressures on energy, utilities and wages persist, underlining the importance of prudent management. The introduction of the Fair Funding Review and a 3-year settlement provides greater certainty during this transition period, although central funding will decline by 33.6% between 2025-26 and 2028-29. This has been mitigated through funding floors, recovery grants and strategic use of council flexibilities, applying the maximum permissible increase of 2.99% alongside modest tax-based growth ensures that core services can be maintained without placing a new burden on residents. At the same time, transitional grants and recovery grant provide short-term protection, allowing us to plan ahead for the end of these measures after March 2029. For 2026-27, the Council achieved a balanced budget of £25.4 million through disciplined financial management and proactive approach to risk. Operationally, the Council has embedded strong financial controls, including zero-based budgeting, robust contract reviews and tighter financial governance and procurement processes. Savings programmes for 2025-26 are on track, and the latest monitoring indicates a small in-year surplus, reinforcing confidence in our approach. Independence assurance supports this positive direction, with the SIPLA Financial Resilience Index showing all indicators improving since 2022-23, and an internal audit providing reasonable assurance on financial controls. The budget also enables strategic investment and regeneration, including private sector redevelopment and improvements to waste management services and its infrastructure. Collaboration with S80 continues to unlock commercial opportunities and generate additional income to support the budget over the medium term. Resident feedback strongly supports transformation and effective asset management over service reductions, and this budget reflects that mandate. By prioritising modernisation, high impact assets and service quality, the Council is delivering a plan that protects today's services while preparing for tomorrow's challenges. Building reserves now is critical to manage the costs of the organisation and sustain services beyond 2029. In summary, Chair, this budget demonstrates sound financial management, resilience and foresight. It protects essential services, strengthens reserves and positions Bassetlaw to navigate structural change with confidence whilst maintaining flexibility to respond to future uncertainties. The recommendations are shown in the report, Chair. And before I close, can I thank the finance team led by Nick and Karen here tonight. An awful lot of hard work has gone into the reports that we've received tonight, and I know I've joked a little bit about I only have to read them out, so I do the easy bit. The really hard bit is managed by our excellent finance team. I want to pay tribute to them. So thank you for that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. You stole my thunder, but I'm still going to say it at the end. Ms Liddick, do you have anything to add?
This was Mr. Alden's report.
Just a couple of updates. So we've had the business ratepayers consultation today. No issues or concerns. A really productive and engaging meeting. So that went down really well. That involved Wrexham Worksop business forums, Bassetlaw CBS and North Knox Bid. Then update on the settlement. We're due the settlement probably Monday or Tuesday next week. And any amendments, I've got the delegated authority to amend those and report back to Council on the 26th of February.
Thank you, Mr. Alden. Any questions or comments? Let's see if anybody else has any before I ask you, Councillor McFarlane. Councillor McFarlane, go ahead.
Thank you. Before the general election, we got promised not a penny more on your council tax by the Prime Minister.
Councillor McFarlane, we've had this discussion before. This is about Bassetlaw District Council. This is not about national. Well then, please ask your question about Bassetlaw District Council.
Thank you. We got promised not a penny more by the Prime Minister. Has this council been provided that funding by the Chancellor to achieve that promise that the Prime Minister made before the general election?
Well, I think in point of fact, you're not talking about the comment made for the last election, but Councillor Rhodes.
The government is very new in its term. I think you jump in the gun a little bit in your expectations. By the way, Reform promised not to raise the council tax at the county council as well.
Yes. Councillor McFarlane, we're not going to have a discussion about national politics. This is Cabinet, this is a business meeting.
Yes, it's just asking because we've got a council tax increase proposal of 2.99%. Is that because the funding hasn't been given in order for us to freeze council tax, or is that because there's been further cuts from the government in terms of the grant given to the council?
So,
Chair, can I respond to this? If funding had been given for us to, in order for us to freeze council tax, we'd have frozen council tax. It's a bit of a nonsensical question, I'm afraid to say, Council. 2.99% is a reasonable level of council tax. It's in line with government guidelines, and actually it's less than Reform at the county council. I understand it's 3.99%. So it's a reasonable level of council tax. It means we can continue to deliver our services at the high quality that the people of Bassetlaw expect and deserve. And it'll add a very small amount onto people's monthly bills. And I think it's a very reasonable level of council tax to be levying, Chair. I would say to freeze council tax without the funding from national government is something I regard personally as irresponsible.
thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Councillor Hulk.
Yeah, my understanding is we're not setting the council tax this meeting tonight. And the figure of 2.9, which is projected over the medium-term financial strategy, is the figure that the government gave us in conjunction with the settlement that they're making. The first time we've actually had a 3-year settlement from the government, even though we've been asking it for, is it 2 decades or something of that nature? So we've got a bit more certainty. We're not setting a council tax, that's a matter for council. If Councillor McFarlane or anybody else in this room wants to make political points, perhaps they can do that at the council meeting rather than at this meeting where we're actually looking at the figures and you know, making recommendations on the basis of that. We are not setting the council tax.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. Any other questions or comments? No? Councillor McFarlane.
Thank you. Just to, in terms of the Notts County Council tax, actually we take away the adult social care precept, which is a separate amount. It is lower than the 299% that this cabinet is recommending.
Councillor McFarlane, I understand your need to make political comments. I understand that, but this is a business
It's
meeting.
about making sure that the record is correct.
I'd like us to concentrate on the business of this meeting. So, any other comments or questions about this report? No. Then I would just like to add something, please. I am also grateful to the Finance Department and the Cabinet Member for Finance. This council has consistently produced balanced budgets, has consistently made sure that the work that we do is paid for responsibly. We are a resilient and responsible council. We provide the best value to our residents against a backdrop of reducing government funds over all of the last Parliament. Many other councils are struggling, some are failing across the country, but this is far from the position that we are in here at Bassetlaw. And I would like to commend our Finance Department. I'd like that meeting, please, because it's a consistently resilient, positive place that you put Bassetlaw in year after year, so thank you for that.
So it should be complimented. Thank you.
Okay, so if we now move to the recommendations, which begin on page 438 until 439, 7.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, all in favour. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So now we're moving to other decisions. Item 10, there are no referrals. Item 11, there are some reporting minutes just to receive on the Health and Safety Committee from the 8th of October. Unless anyone has any comments on those, no. And then we're moving to the exempt information, so if we can stop.